Hey everyone, DoD Chaos here, coming at you with a very exciting brand new series. It's Road to Top 100 with no mechanics. So, here's how it's going to work. We take a brand new fresh account, we take it all the way up to the top 100 using a single god. In this case, we'll start with Loki because it's the most popular god for new players and it's got a very simple game plan coming out of the gate. And we'll do this only using the mechanics that are appropriate for the ELO that we're at. So, for example, at the 1000 range here, these players typically struggle with basic build orders and have very low actions per minute. So we're going to play accordingly, only winning with strategy. That way, everyone can see at a specific ELO range, if you're capped there, how can I improve and move to the next level. If you want to see another god or a specific ELO range, comment below and we will do another god in the next series depending on what the most requested option is. So let's jump right into a game. We'll queue up our ranked match here and we should find a game very quickly because we are here only at 1041 rating, having played one game just to make sure everything with the account was set up properly. The map is Elysium. So there's no water here. We have a very straightforward game plan. Execute a reasonable build order, although at this level players struggle to do that, so we'll probably do the same to be realistic. Scout our opponent and cast spy, make some army, and continue attacking the right locations, and that will likely win us the game. So the very first thing you need to do when the game starts is ensure to queue a dwarf before anything else out of the town center. So we see that we're actually facing Kronos here. We'll have to play accordingly defensively in the beginning. So we queue a dwarf, and then we send all of our villagers to food. So just to keep things very simple, let's take a villager and build both of the additional ox carts we need. Put our Allspark in a control group, and build a house, then shift click it over to our opponent's side. The dwarf that comes out, we're going to send it to gold, and the ox cart that's built here, we're going to send it to gold. Very straightforward. Now, the villagers that are coming out, we will also send them to food. The key part of this matchup here is to just not get overtaken in the beginning. This villager that built our ox carts, we can send it to wood. Alright, we're going to build another dwarf now once we have more on food. The Allspark here that's coming into our opponent's base, just keep an eye on it to make sure we don't lose it. We don't want to be running into the town center. That's a good way to lose the game. We'll send our dwarf to gold. Meanwhile, we'll double click our control group to go back to our Allspark. That's really what we want to be focusing on at this point. Our dwarf has been built, so we can go back to food with our villagers. We want to do a little lap of the base here to see where our opponent's vulnerable spots are. Now, normally I would be more focused on defense, but since it's a lower ELO, chances are there will be a very good timing attack done. And let's cast our spy here. This might actually be a Smurf that we're playing against because I can see here that the player has actually a very clean build order. And that's okay. We're bound to run into some Smurfs in this game. So we can see we already messed up the build order a bit. I'd usually, after 6 food, we would have built a dwarf, and that's totally good, but we expect at this yellow range. It doesn't have to be rigid, we just adapt. So instead, we send this villager to gold. We'll gather a little bit with that, and once our dwarf comes out now, we can move this villager over to wood. We'll also queue our villagers there over to wood. Alright, so we almost have enough gold now to build our temple. We're not going to focus too much on any of the intricacies. We're just going to let our villagers do their thing and not click too much. Typically when you're playing against Kronos, you want to build your temple in a nice safe location somewhere back here. But again, at this ELO range, I don't expect players to be aware of that, so we're not going to do that. Just keep things nice and simple and wait for our villagers to gather. And we can also build some houses to keep ourselves get ready for the next stage. We also built an extra gatherer here, which is totally fine. Send them to food. And let's advance. We're going to get our healing springs. We also want to get some Herseers out, because those Prometheans can come into our base and attack us. So let's start doing that. What's vulnerable here is our gold mine is the most vulnerable piece. So let's go ahead and protect that a little bit. We can throw down a wall. We threw our temple into a control group. You can defend yourself, or you can set up your military buildings however you'd like. So we're almost out of hunt here, so we're going to shift click our bills onto the next hunt pack to make sure that we are ready. Let's make another wall here, keep things very simple. We could probably block this with buildings. We would block this with buildings rather, but again at this ELO, let's just keep it very, very simple. And what we're not going to do actually is run out into the middle yet until we know if things are safe. So let's go ahead and put down our military production. Typically against, okay, so here's our opponent's army running in here, and he runs right in under the town center and loses both the units for free. So the only thing that was done there is we selected our units and we attacked moved them, and they cleaned everything up. Right. So our first production building's up. Let's build another one, and we're just going to queue up units. Now our macro is totally off. We've got 8 on wood. Why? This ELO, again, we're going to be making lots of mistakes. It doesn't matter. Let's fix it. Let's move everything to food, and we probably want to make a few more dwarves on gold as well. So we'll make a few more dwarves. Keep queuing some units. We can go forward with our army now and attack. We can see exactly he's very vulnerable right here due to our spy. We'll keep our Ulsfar back, and we'll keep making some houses as well as defending our base. Now, since we're going to attack, let's keep training units and put our point forward so that our reinforcements will actually come help us attack. We queued some dwarves and they're going to the wrong spot, so let's fix that. We've got both of our dwarves where we want them. Now let's send them back. Now our military is here. We don't want to lose anything. Another very key upgrade, and you can queue this earlier on if you want. Again, completely expecting sloppy play. Go to our temple here, Hall of Thanes. That will help us attack things early. We've also found an oracle here. Very important to kill oracles. So we'll use one unit to attack that. We're going to select the rest of our military and put it into a control group, and we can come attack. Now, our opponent does have some towers, which can help defend. But towers don't really do a lot of damage, right? So what we're going to want to do is just have a little bit of micro. We're going to be a little bit careful. This is the key to Loki. You don't want to lose any units. As soon as the unit is low, send it back to the healing springs. In this case, we can put the healing springs shortly just outside our opponent's base because we seem to have a much bigger army than they do. Our population here, we're going to want to build a few more houses, and we're also going to need an armory to go to the heroic age. So let's do that. You can see we have one low cavalry there. Let's send that cavalry unit back to the healing spring. Always checking if we have idle villagers. You'll see a red banner up here when you do. Alright, so there's no clear spot to attack right now. Right here would still do some damage, but it is a bit dicey because you have to keep an eye. There's a tower and a few units. So let's just wait a minute. And looks like I accidentally didn't select all the military options. This is not something you want to use for Norse. As you can see, our Ulsfark ran away. So for the time being, we'll fix that. We'll just use our villager to build a couple of houses. Alright. This point in the game, we have a much better army than our opponent, and we can start to attack. Just use attack move here. Easiest way to engage, no micro is required. We kill a few units. Right, so this unit's getting low, let's bring it back. And a few units over here are getting low, so let's just bring everything back now. We've done the damage that we want. Again, our key is just don't lose units with Loki. Everything's idle here. And we are out of food in our base. Have to come forward. Let's stop making villagers. Keep things very simple. We want to go up to the next stage. And let's also move this dwarf onto wood because we don't need wood anymore. So we're advancing here. Our army is getting healthy. We need a few upgrades on our army to really be able to dive underneath this town center and go for the killing blow. We found our food here, perfect. So what do we need? Well, first of all, let's make a few more production buildings so we can queue more units up. Okay, next we want our cavalry to be a bit stronger. So let's go here and queue our medium raider upgrade. Another thing we can do is we're going to need some gold for battle boards in the next stage. So now's a good time to research pickaxe. And we can also keep queuing more units. So we actually see that our opponent took another town center here. So let's go have a little look at what's going on in their base. We know that they're making some additional towers and they have a villager there. And again, careful with your units. You don't want to lose any units. Here we have an opportunity to kill some villagers. Now a little trick you can do is figure out the town center is the only one that hurts. Figure out which unit the town center is shooting and run around with that. Now we could kill this villager here, but since it's spied, we will leave it alone. We'll get our heavy cavalry upgrade and make some more units. Next, we can attack this town center. Again, we know that this Herseer is the one being attacked, so if we shift click it back and forth like this, doesn't require much effort to do, the town center will not be shooting your units. And it's like you're not fighting under a town center. Here, let's attack the villagers with a few of the units. Okay, we're going to need a few more houses. And our military is busy at the moment. So let's take a villager here and build some houses. Right, so we can see here that we're still fighting as if we're not under a tower because this Herseer is just running back and forth. And we have a couple, you notice here that we have a hero. This is really the only thing that Loki cares about. So if we just focus down the hero, we're in pretty good shape. Alright, things are a little messy now. We've got a lot of idle villagers. Move those along. And we don't want to lose units, so we're going to push those back. Over here, we've done pretty well with our killing. Let's grab all the army, move it over to the springs, and then we can go for the killing blow. These are done here. What we'd like to do with all this favor is train a bunch of battle boars. But we don't have the gold for it, so we can take all these villagers here, cash in our food, and move ourselves over to the gold. With that, we'll be able to train a bunch of battle boars. Army's almost healthy. And we forgot to queue villagers as we got to the heroic age. Again, all these things are going to be very expected at this ELO range. So we can probably go in and finish our opponent now. But the easiest way to throw a game is to get overconfident. So let's just see what they have. They have very little army at this point. We just attack, move in. We don't need to do anything here. Can probably cast flame weapons. And there we go. So winning at this ELO range, pretty much what you need to do. Execute a build order reasonably. It doesn't have to be accurate or anything, but you want to have it okay uptime. Make a bit of army. use the spy that you have to attack the right locations. The key thing you want to focus on, no idle villagers, and don't lose army. So you see weak units, bring them back to the healing springs. Get to the heroic age, cast flaming weapons, and you should have no problem winning. So let's take a look now. We are up to N85. Let's do another game at this ELO range. Again, our mechanics are going to be much the same. Our opponents at this level still will struggle with the very basics of the game, decision making. So if we look at the decisions that our opponent made in the last game, number one, they took 3 town centers against Loki, and number 2, they barely made any army. So in the matchup against Loki, there's almost no civilizations that can take 2 TCs safely without being punished. And if they do, it's because it's a very favorable map. Alright, so we found another game here. We have Marsh. Marsh is a nice open map. Got a little bit of water, so in some cases there can be some strategic walling happening. The key is there's lots of hunt in the middle. Control of the middle is vital. And also lots of nice relics. At this level, I wouldn't worry very much about relics. Controlling the middle so you can hunt is going to be much more important. So let's just ignore the relics in this game unless they're right beside our temple and see what we can do. I don't know. I think this might be the same opponent. Last time, definitely same god. So again, first thing we want to do is just queue a dwarf out of our town center. Send our initial villagers to food. Take one of them, build 2 ox carts. Our Allspark that comes out, put it in a control group, build a house, shift click it away. Our dwarf is going to go to gold. Okay, let's send this ox cart over to gold, and these next 2 villagers are going to go to food. Let's queue that up. If you're doing nothing else, we want to look around which is the most strategic wood line that we have here, and the answer is this one here. So we're going to send the villager here. And the reason we picked this one is because it's big, so there's lots of wood to gather from, and it's somewhat close to a tower. So if we get attacked, then we can easily put those units into the tower and we won't lose units. Alright, so next we want to send our dwarf over to gold that we queued up. And our Allspark here, looks like we've found our opponent. Back to food after we get our second dwarf. We're going to make 2 more villagers to food. So this is kind of a nasty wood line here. Very defensive for our opponent. But let's see what's going on. We're going to keep scouting. Most important thing here is not to lose our Allspark. So that's our primary focus right now. If the build order goes wrong at home, it's okay. Just don't lose your Allspark. So we've got our 3rd dwarf in the queue here. Send that over to gold. Alright, so we didn't find exactly where his food is. We saw a deer just a moment ago right there. We would prefer to cast our spy on food. So we'll go back over this way. We'll get our spy ready. And we will cast it there on that villager and then head back to our base. And ideally, if there's time, you want to head back, not in the same path that you came up, so you scout more of the map. The villagers are just going to wood now. And we're ready to build our temple. We're a little bit late to build our temple. That's totally fine. We got the information we wanted with the scouting. The higher ELO levels will clean all of this up. So after our 5th villager on wood, we can send a dwarf over to gold. And in this case, since we're playing against Kronos, we actually don't want throwing axemen early. So we're going to take 1 villager and go over to food instead. And the reason we don't want... let's make sure that we click up as well. You know what? We missed it. We'll keep things simple. We'll train another villager. The reason we don't want throwing axemen is because they are easily countered by Terma. So we'll only build them later on. So we'll click up for SETI, and we'll take this villager and we'll put them on food. We'll have, in this case, again, very improvised. It's not super important. 844. And let's train Herseer as we advance. So strategically, we're looking where do we want to go for our next piece of food. In a proper game, let's say, we would probably want to go, let's just wall up our base, keep things nice and safe. We'd probably want to stay in our base to get food. In this case, there's a pack of hunt up there, so we can do that fairly safely. Keep training. Let's not forget to queue our villagers again. So to keep things really simple, queue villagers. You can queue 1 dwarf just to start. These are idle, we'll move them over up here. And we can use our military to build ourselves the buildings that we need. Collect our Ulsfark. And we can actually see that they had a Promethean come through, so this wall is not actually properly protecting us. And for some reason, there's a bug in this game. The units go idle in this particular case. Alright, so cool. Opponent suicided against our wall there, with the troll killing everything. So, not to be understated, the positioning of the troll there is important, right? We want to have the troll sitting where they can react and attack what we want. We can see the opponent is again going for a second town center. So what we're going to do is just take all of our military and send it there. If we don't get there in time, no problem. And this here, we want to make an ox cart for it. So we didn't quite have the food, we just dropped off some food. An ox cart. Keep making military, sending it over. Ulsfark here, we're almost housed. Build some houses. And we also need our Hall of Things. The way we're getting to our buildings here is just to use a go-to building hockey. So as you can see, the town center went up pretty quick. We got there slowly, but we found that the wood line here can be attacked. Keep queuing some units and attacking. It looks like we're going to be able to kill a villager here. I'm not going to micro. Pull back, we're getting shot by the town center, and again, we don't want to lose units. That's just the key. Just gonna pull everything back. Just by being here, it's enough to do damage. We'll move our troll over to somewhat central location here. It's not being attacked by the villagers. Let's move back again. Just don't lose units. It's the key. So our troll is in a good position here, and we can actually tell it to stand ground, so it will just stay here and it won't chase you. Again, let's keep chasing units, let's keep training units, and we need our armory so we can go up to the next stage. Now, earlier we trained some dwarves. Let's move them over to gold. And also, again, we can cast our springs. If the opponent is not 2TC, casting a forward spring seer is very risky. But in this case, we see some Prometheans and we want to attack them. In this case, it's fine to cast the forward springs because our opponent has gone really greedy to Townsend. So again, we can put our troll here so it shoots. We want to build these houses. We want him to run through in this little choke though. Let's fix our macro a little bit. Those units are idle. We'll just bring forward, take this gold, and our opponent taps out. So we really just need to train units and position our army strategically. In this case, our opponent is doing very much the wrong thing, which is try to take town centers against Loki. and that's not going to work. Here in these games, we're able to win 2 games against 1,000 ELO rated players. And this is roughly the average rating of all the players in the player base. So if you're able to surpass this level, you'll be better than half the player base. How we did it was very simple. Executed a simple build order, made units, and set it to attack the vulnerable places based on the spy. Didn't lose units by pulling the weak ones back to the healing springs. Got our relevant upgrades as well as our flaming weapons, and then finished off our opponent. Now, there was also a third game against the same player. I will not show that because it's a little bit redundant, but in the future I'll make sure to wait in between matches to queue so we don't have the same players. The only thing I'll say about the third game is the opponent actually adapted and didn't make additional town centers, so that's good. They're learning from their mistakes. But in that game, again, we were able to simply take control of the middle and finish their opponent. So we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you so much for watching, and comment if you have any questions or god requests or ELO range requests below.